Thanks so much, Kelly. Thanks a million. I'm starting off blushing. That's never good. Can I get my slides up? Nearly there. While I'm waiting for them to appear, it's brilliant to be here. Thanks a million, Kelly, for such a gracious introduction. And thank you so much to Marianne and the IIBN for making it possible. Kelly made the introduction. We met Marianne and the whole thing happened within days. They're fantastic doers. So I'm just going to take you through kind of a whistle-stop tour because we don't want you all standing all night. So we're all going to be quite short. It started off, I'm co-founder of a publication called Silicon Republic, which you can find at siliconrepublic.com. My co-founder is male, I'm female. And we found over the years, one of the biggest challenges we found was the amount of exclusively white male everything in technology and science. Where do I even start? I hope you're aware of this. And we love you white males, don't misunderstand me.
Thank you.
But, you're welcome. But if we create the future exclusively with people who all look the same, we're in trouble. I'm just, a couple of these figures are quite old and things have improved a lot since then. I think we might be up at about 4.5% now. And this may be one of the reasons why it seems like quite an interesting correlation, I think. And yet, women-led private technology companies are actually more capital efficient, according to the Kaufman Foundation, achieving 35%, I'm getting ahead of myself, higher ROI. When they're venture-backed, they bring in 12% higher revenue than male-owned tech companies. So there's something going on there. So investors, take heed. That is, you've all seen these figures, I'm sure. I mean, it's really, these are the Googles and the Yahoos and all the rest of it. Again, those figures haven't really improved since then. You see it's between sort of 15 and 20%. But if you actually look at the roles in tech that are leadership or, technical roles, that can fall as low as 3 or 4 or 5%. There are many reasons. Where do I start? Imposter syndrome, ingrained stereotypes, and there's a good old one at the bottom, sexism. Yes, it does still exist, believe it or not. Possibly an image problem. I'm sure you've all seen the HBO series. People give out about it and say it's sexist. I disagree completely. I think it's quite brilliant because it reflects Silicon Valley as I see it when I go and visit it, I have to say. History is interesting because despite the fact that we're quite invisible in science and technology now, we were actually hugely part of the history of technology. That's Ada Lovelace. She wrote the first computer program for Babbage's machine. You've all heard of Babbage. Most people haven't heard of Ada Lovelace. Who's heard of her? Oh, that's great. What a good room. There's at least 10 hands there.
That's because we were all at Inspirefest last year.
They're the 10 people, I think, yeah. So this is Joan Clark, incredible mathematician and one of the best code breakers. You all saw The Imitation Game, I'm sure, did you? That's what she actually looks like in real life. It wasn't about glamour, it was about brains. These were for the women who worked on the ENIAC program. You're all very familiar with that, I've no doubt. The woman on the left is Kay McNulty from Donegal. They've just named the computer science building in Dublin City University after her. When Kathy Kleiman found that photo, she went to her fellow researchers in her university and they told her that these were models. It was only when she actually dug in, she discovered that actually there were these incredible people working on ENIAC. Do we all know who this is? Heidi Lamar, co-inventor of Wi-Fi?
Yes.
Yes.
Anybody?
Grace Hopper.
Good. Okay, you all know Grace Hopper. That's fantastic. She coined the phrase the computer bug, but also she was behind the protocol for COBOL programming language. You all know her, I'm sure. Megan Smith. She was your CTO in the US until very recently. Amazing woman. Anybody know who that is?
Heather.
You know who that is. That's Heather Galler. She's the Chief Technology Officer of Burning Man. So you can look like that and be a CTO as well, by the way. Do we know who these three women are? Yeah. So, it's very important if we talk about feminism, which is basically equality, by the way, just in case there's any confusion. It's very easy to not be intersectional about it, and it's really, really important. And for us at Inspirefest, when we talk about diversity and inclusion, we're not just talking about women. We are talking about diversity of all kinds, whether that be age, sexual orientation, ethnic background, ability, and disability. despite all those people I showed you in history, I still go to a hell of a lot of these. I don't know about you. These are all technology conferences, by the way. Really shocking how often that still happens. I show that picture just because it's I just particularly love that picture. One solution we thought would be to ensuring that media and events reflect the remarkable women in STEM, because we knew them. We've been looking at them for the last 16 years at Silicon Republic, so we knew they were there. So we did things like we published 100 top women in STEM back in 2014. A lot of these people are from the diaspora. They're not like based in Ireland necessarily, several of them in America. And many of them traveled over to be in the room with us when we celebrated, including people like Anne Kelleher, who's a senior VP in Intel. We also started trying to put young women on stage and get them used to be speaking. They're the 3 young women who won the BT Young Scientists. Then we ran the Female Founders Forum, and an interesting thing happened at that forum is a lot of guys turned up. And we realized that actually a lot of our community were allies, and they were pretty bored with the homogenous sector that they were working in as well. Thank you. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Most guys I know don't want it to be like that. I'm very happy to say there are a few, but few. So in our effort to be less like Tech Disrupt, we made something that looks a bit more like that. So that's some of the lineup for Inspirefest 2017. Some great guys there as well, let me emphasize. Donal Hernan, who you'll be hearing from in a moment, is speaking at it. So is the president of Bell Labs, Marcus Weldon. This is Matt Flannery here. He just gained, I think, 12 million investment from Anderson Horowitz. There's Kelly, is returning again. We couldn't do it without Kelly. And Monica Parker has been one of our fantastic speakers as well, and you'll meet her today. So at its core, it's a 2-day conference. We expect about 3,000 attendees in 2017. We bring together about 50 plus speakers. I think it's about 60 this year. We do it all on one stage, all the core conference, because we want it to be a shared experience. We don't want the women to be siloed off on stage 3 somewhere that somebody might happen to see them. Our audience tends to break down about 35% men, 65% women. We're aiming to, our aim would be for that to be 50-50. Sorry, I was just going to tell you very, very briefly. Some of the key themes are the obvious things like blockchain, artificial intelligence, machine learning, small data, EdTech. We do look at diversity, but above all, we look at the sciences and the technologies that are creating the future. We're going to focus in a little bit on artificial intelligence tonight. That's one of my favorite quotes, and that is really the idea of it. It's not just a conference about diversity and inclusion. It's for people with smart minds, and some of the smartest people I know want a more diverse and inclusive sector. We do lots of networking, and the most amazing connections come out of it. We discussed a little bit about Kelly introducing me to Marianne, and then the IIBN, and very kindly White and Williams hosting us here tonight. But also wonderful things happen, like Astia. Victoria is here somewhere, I think, from Astia. Astia Angels come over every year. And when they came over last year, they met Soapbox Labs, and lovely investment came out of that. People like, I don't know if you've heard of Minnie Melange, Sinead Burke. She met Liz Jackson and ended up on the board of her organization here in New York, and they both ended up at the White House around the issue of disability. We also try to bring in the arts as well. This is the wonderful Zoe Philpott, who does a play around Ada Lovelace. I'm just going to end more or less on this. It's a really, really short video, but I hope it gives you a little bit of a feel for the atmosphere. And we'd love to see some of you back in Dublin, if not in July this year, next year. It'll be happening at the end of June. why not leave it with Mahatma Gandhi? He was pretty wise, leaving that profoundly. So hope to see some of you in Dublin, as I say, if not this year, next year. And these are some of the fabulous people who support us. Many of them are in the room tonight. And thanks again to IIBN and to White & Williams for having us here tonight. And without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to one of my favourite speakers at Inspirefest, Donal Hernan from Bell Labs.
I was wondering, who were you looking at behind me?